The night was quiet in Los Angeles, but Keanu Reeves could not rest. His house, though warm with soft light, felt strangely heavy with silence. He sat on the edge of his sofa, staring at the untouched cup of tea on the table. His phone screen kept lighting up, but he refused to look. For days he had felt something was wrong, but tonight the feeling grew stronger, pressing against his chest like an unseen weight. His mind drifted back to the laughter he once shared with Sandra Bullock. Their friendship had always been special, filled with honesty and kindness. They were not like other Hollywood stories where glamour drowned sincerity. Their bond was simple and pure, two souls who respected each other beyond fame. Yet in recent weeks, Sandra had grown distant. Her words were shorter, her smile less warm. Keanu had told himself she was busy, but his heart whispered another truth. Something was breaking. The phone buzzed again, louder this time. His hands shook as he picked it up. A single message from Sandra appeared. Her words were brief, almost cold. "I made a decision. Please don't try to change my mind. I will explain tomorrow." His chest tightened. Keanu read the message over and over as if searching for a hidden meaning. What decision? Why the sudden distance? He placed the phone down, but his thoughts would not calm. His imagination painted countless pictures. Had he unknowingly hurt her? Was she walking away from something important between them? He stood and walked across the room, each step echoing louder than the last. Outside, the city moved on with its endless lights, but inside his heart everything stood still. Keanu had faced loneliness before, the weight of loss, the silence of grief, but the thought of losing Sandra in any way shook him deeply. The night stretched on, and Keanu found himself replaying their memories. The long conversations on set, where they shared dreams and fears. The quiet dinners where fame and cameras disappeared and they were just two people trying to make sense of life. The way her laughter could ease even the heaviest day. She had once told him, "Keanu, you make people feel safe." And for him, she was the same light. As dawn approached, Keanu knew he would not sleep. The message left him restless, torn between fear and hope. He rehearsed what he might say to her tomorrow, how he might remind her of their trust, of the bond they had built. Yet a deeper fear lingered, that the decision she spoke of was final, a wall he could not climb. The next morning, he arrived early at the cafe where they had agreed to meet. It was a small hidden place away from the public eye. He chose a corner table, his hands clasped together tightly. The air smelled of fresh coffee, but he could not taste anything. Every time the door opened, his heart jumped. Then Sandra walked in. She wore a simple black coat, her hair tied back, her face calm but heavy with something unspoken. Keanu rose to greet her, his eyes filled with quiet concern. She sat down across from him, avoiding his gaze at first. "Sandra," he whispered, his voice steady but trembling inside. "What decision?" She finally looked at him, and in her eyes he saw both strength and sorrow. "Keanu," she began softly, "I need to step away from everything we have known, from the comfort, from the bond, even from you." The words hit him like a wave, pulling the air from his chest. His mind screamed for an explanation, yet his heart already felt the wound. But before he could speak, she leaned forward, her hand trembling as it touched his. "Please don't hate me for this. It's not about you. It's about me, about something I must do." Keanu's lips parted, but no words came. His entire life had been shaped by resilience, by surviving storms with quiet strength. Yet this moment, with Sandra's voice breaking in front of him, left him speechless. He squeezed her hand gently, not to stop her, but to remind her he was still there, still listening. In that silence, something powerful stirred, an understanding that whatever her decision was, it would test the very core of his kindness, his humility, his strength. And as the world outside carried on, inside that small cafe, Keanu Reeves realized his life was about to change forever. The air in the cafe grew heavy after Sandra's words. Keanu kept holding her hand, his silence louder than any protest. His eyes searched hers, but she looked down, as if afraid to let him see the full truth. Time slowed, and even the soft hum of voices around them seemed to fade. Finally, he whispered, "Sandra, I don't understand. Why now? Why walk away when nothing has been broken?" She pulled her hand back, folding it tightly into her lap. Her voice trembled, but there was a resolve in it. "Because I can't keep living like this, Keanu. I can't keep being the friend who hides her real feelings. I can't stay in this half space where I love you in silence but can never ask for more." Keanu's heart clenched. The words struck him harder than any rejection could. It wasn't anger. It wasn't betrayal. It was love, raw, vulnerable, and restrained for too long. Sandra's eyes glistened, though she tried to blink the tears away. "You love me," he murmured, his voice breaking on the last word. She nodded slowly. "I do, I have for years. But I also know you, Keanu. You carry so much weight in your heart. Your grief, your past, your loneliness. I see how you always put others first. How you protect everyone around you, but never yourself. And I told myself it was enough just to be near you. To share laughter in moments. But lately, it's been hurting too much. I can't keep pretending." His throat tightened, and for a moment he had no breath. Sandra's confession was not what he expected. He had feared she wanted to end their friendship, to leave his life forever. But what she had given him was both a gift and a storm. A love he never dared to believe could exist between them. Keanu leaned back in his chair, his hands trembling slightly. His mind spun with years of shared memories, each one colored differently now. Every smile, every glance, every silence. They all carried the weight of her unspoken love. "Sandra," he finally said, his voice low but steady. "I never wanted you to feel like you had to hide from me. I never wanted you to carry this pain alone." Her eyes met his then, wide and searching. "So what are you saying?" He paused, his gaze soft but filled with unspoken storms. "I'm saying I care for you more than I ever let myself admit. I thought keeping it inside was safer, that we would never risk what we already had. I told myself friendship was enough, but maybe I was just afraid." Sandra's breath caught, and for the first time that morning her expression shifted from sorrow to shock. "Afraid? Keanu, what could you possibly be afraid of?" He lowered his eyes, his voice quiet but piercing. "Afraid that if I reached for you I would lose you forever. Afraid that the world would turn our bond into another story for cameras, another headline. Afraid because I've lost too much before and losing you would destroy me." A tear rolled down Sandra's cheek. She quickly brushed it away, but her lips trembled. "Keanu, don't you see? We've already been losing each other slowly, step by step, silence by silence. I made this decision because I couldn't stand the distance anymore. It was crushing me." His chest ached with every word. In that small cafe, he realized they stood at the edge of something bigger than either of them had planned. They were not just friends struggling with hidden feelings. They were two broken hearts afraid of breaking further, yet desperate for something real. Before he could respond, Sandra stood. "I can't stay. I just needed you to know. I needed to speak it out loud, even if it means you'll never look at me the same." She placed money on the table, turned, and walked toward the door. Keanu sat frozen, torn between the fear that had bound him for years and the truth that had just been placed before him. His hands tightened into fists. For a moment he thought of letting her go, of sinking back into the silence he knew so well. But then a voice inside him whispered, "Not this time." He stood, almost knocking the chair back, and hurried after her. Outside, the morning sun painted the streets gold, but all he saw was Sandra's figure moving quickly away. "Sandra!" he called, his voice breaking the quiet street. She stopped, her shoulders stiff, but she didn't turn. Keanu walked closer, his steps heavy but sure. When he reached her, he gently touched her arm. She finally faced him, her eyes wet, her expression torn between hope and fear. He looked at her for a long moment, then said softly, "I don't want to lose you. Not to silence. Not to fear. If you're brave enough to speak your truth, then I will be brave enough too. I love you, Sandra. I always have." Her lips parted, but no words came. The world seemed to hold its breath. And in that fragile moment, Keanu Reeves realized the decision that had left him speechless might just lead to the greatest chapter of his life. The moment lingered between them, heavy with both fear and fragile hope. Sandra's breath trembled as she stared into Keanu's eyes. She wanted to believe his words, wanted to let the walls fall away, but years of silence had taught her not to expect too much. Still, hearing him confess his love shook her to the core. "You don't mean that," she whispered, her voice caught between disbelief and longing. Keanu held her gaze firmly. "I do. I've kept it inside for too long, Sandra. I thought protecting you meant hiding it. But I see now. Hiding has only hurt us both." Her lips quivered, and for a moment she almost smiled, but then the sound of a camera shutter broke the fragile silence. Both of them turned, startled. Across the street, a man lowered his phone, his eyes wide with recognition. Within seconds, he sprinted away. Sandra's face paled. "Keanu, someone saw us." His heart sank. He knew what that meant. Their quiet confession, something so personal, was now vulnerable to the world outside. Once the media caught wind, their truth would no longer belong to them. Keanu placed a hand gently on her arm. Let them talk. Let them spin their stories. What matters is us right here. But Sandra shook her head, fear flashing in her eyes. You don't understand. You've always been careful, always so private, and me. I've worked so hard to protect what little peace I have. If this gets out, they'll tear us apart before we even begin. Her words pierced him because they were true. Hollywood had never been kind to love stories. What was pure often became distorted, twisted for headlines and gossip, and Keanu more than anyone knew how cruel the spotlight could be. Still, he couldn't let her walk away again. Then let them say what they will, he said softly but firmly. Because I'd rather fight through noise and rumors than go back to silence with you. Her eyes searched his, desperate for reassurance. You're not afraid? He took a deep breath. I am, but I'm more afraid of losing you. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She pulled it out, her hands trembling as she read the screen. Her eyes widened. They already know, she whispered, showing him the screen. A gossip site headline glared back at them. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock caught an intimate moment on LA Street. The photo was blurry but unmistakable. The two of them standing close. Her eyes wet with tears, his hand on her arm. Keanu clenched his jaw. It doesn't matter what they say. We'll face it together. But Sandra's voice broke. Keanu, I'm not like you. I can't ignore them the way you do. Every look, every rumor, every whisper, it gets inside me. I thought I was strong enough, but I'm not sure anymore. She stepped back, her fear battling with her heart. Keanu reached for her, but she shook her head, tears spilling now. I don't know if I can survive loving you out loud. He froze. Her words cut deeper than any headline could. For the rest of the day, Sandra avoided his calls. Keanu sat in his house, staring at his silent phone, each second heavier than the last. Outside, the world roared with gossip, headlines multiplying, social media exploding. Fans cheered, critics speculated, and strangers claimed to know truths they had never lived. Keanu turned off the TV, turned off the radio, even silenced his phone. He sat in the quiet, wrestling with the question that now haunted him. Could love survive when the world refused to let it breathe? Night fell, and still no word from Sandra. He walked to the balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly before him. His heart ached with both hope and despair. He wanted to protect her, but he could not silence the world. All he could do was wait. Then, just past midnight, his phone lit up. A single message from Sandra appeared. Meet me tomorrow at the old theater. No cameras. Just us. Keanu's chest tightened. The old theater. The place they had once shared laughter while watching silent films. Long before fame had claimed them. It was their sanctuary, their secret. As he stared at the message, he realized tomorrow might decide everything, whether their bond would bend under pressure or break completely. The following morning, Keanu woke earlier than usual. His sleep had been broken, restless with images of Sandra's tearful face, the headlines screaming their names, and the uncertainty of what awaited him. Still, beneath the weight of fear, there was a fragile thread of hope. The old theater meant something. It was not just a place, it was their refuge, the one corner of Los Angeles untouched by cameras and noise. If she had chosen it, maybe she had not given up yet. The sky was still gray when he drove through the nearly empty streets. Every red light felt longer than usual, every corner heavier. His heart thudded in his chest as he finally pulled up to the abandoned theater, its faded sign creaking in the breeze. Ivy had crept up its walls and dust clung to the old windows, but to him, it was beautiful. Inside, the air smelled faintly of age and forgotten dreams. Broken seats lined the rows, but the stage at the front still stood tall, bathed in the dim light that slipped through cracks above. Keanu stepped quietly, each footstep echoing in the silence. Then he saw her. Sandra stood near the stage, her coat wrapped tight, her posture tense. Her eyes lifted when she heard him, and for a moment, neither spoke. You came, she said softly, almost as if she hadn't expected him to. You asked? He replied, his voice calm but full of meaning. She nodded, her hands clutching each other. I needed a place where we could speak without the world watching. Where I could say what I couldn't yesterday. Keanu's chest tightened. Then tell me, Sandra. Tell me everything. She hesitated, her lips trembling. Finally, she said, I wasn't only afraid of the cameras. I wasn't only afraid of the gossip. I was afraid because I already made a choice. His breath caught. A choice? She nodded, her eyes wet. Months ago, I was offered a project. Not just a film, but something bigger. A chance to leave Los Angeles, to leave all of this behind. A chance to start over somewhere no one knows my name. Keanu's mind reeled. Leave? For how long? Her silence answered him. It wasn't weeks or months, it was forever. Sandra. His voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me before? Because, she whispered. I didn't want to see that look in your eyes. I didn't want to feel the weight of you asking me to stay. Because I knew I couldn't resist. And I thought, maybe if I walked away, you would be free from the storm. But when you told me yesterday that you loved me... Her voice broke. It made everything harder. The words echoed in the empty theater, tearing through Keanu's chest. The woman who had been his anchor, his light, was preparing to vanish. So that's your decision, he said quietly, his voice trembling but controlled. To walk away from me. From us. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It's not what I want, but it's what I thought I needed. Keanu stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. You don't have to keep sacrificing your heart for peace, Sandra. I know what it feels like to run from pain. I've done it all my life. But peace doesn't come from leaving. It comes from finding someone who makes the storms worth it. And that's you. She shook her head, torn between his words and her fears. But what if loving you means losing myself in the noise? What if it breaks us? His voice deep and steady but filled with emotion. Then let it break us, but let it be ours. Not theirs. Not the world's, just ours. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with both dread and longing. Sandra's hands trembled as she lifted them to her face, wiping away tears. She wanted to believe him, but years of protecting herself held her back. Before either could say more, a sudden sound echoed through the theater. Footsteps. Sharp, deliberate. Keanu spun around, his body tense. From the shadows at the back, two men stepped forward, cameras in hand. Sandra gasped. No, one of the men smirked. Looks like we found our headline. America's favorite quiet man finally confesses his love. Keanu's jaw tightened. He moved instinctively in front of Sandra, shielding her from their lenses. Leave, he said firmly, his voice low but commanding. The men ignored him, snapping photos, the flashes harsh against the dim theater light. Sandra's face paled, panic flooding her. Keanu, they'll twist everything. They'll make us their story. Keanu turned his head slightly, his voice softer when he spoke to her. Then we'll give them a story they can never break. And in that instant, with cameras flashing and the world closing in, he reached for her hand and pulled her gently onto the stage. Standing there together beneath the fractured light, Keanu looked at her as if no one else existed. Sandra, he said clearly, his voice steady. I love you. I don't care who hears it. I don't care what they write. This is my truth, and I'll keep speaking it no matter what. The reporters froze for a moment, stunned by the rawness of his words. Sandra stared at him, tears streaming freely now, her heart torn wide open. And as the cameras clicked, she realized her decision was no longer simple. The choice between leaving and staying had transformed into something deeper. The choice between fear and love. The days after the old theater meeting felt like a hurricane. What had been whispered rumors before became full-blown headlines now. Every magazine, every online site, every television show carried the same images. Keanu on stage, his hand clutching, Sandra's his words caught forever in bold letters. I love you. I don't care who hears it. For Keanu, the storm rolled past him like heavy rain. He had lived through scrutiny before, survived the weight of questions and stares. He walked quietly through it all, steady as ever, refusing to let noise shake him. But for Sandra, the storm cut deep. The endless photos, the speculation about her decisions, the harsh voices claiming she was using his name, or breaking his heart, or running away again. In the quiet of her home, Sandra scrolled through headlines until her chest tightened. Some people cheered for them, calling it the love story the world had waited for. But others tore her apart, labeling her as indecisive, selfish, even cruel. Every word stabbed at her, feeding her old fears. Keanu called her often, his voice calm and grounding. Don't read them, Sandra. The people writing those words don't know you, they don't know us. But she shook her head, even when he couldn't see. Maybe they're right, Keanu. Maybe I don't know what I want. Maybe I was wrong to even start this. His silence on the other end was heavy but never angry. Finally, he said softly, You know your heart even when fear clouds it. I believe in you. I believe in us. I won't stop just because the world is loud. Her eyes filled with tears because his steadiness only made her feel weaker. He carried storms like mountains on his back, while she felt herself breaking beneath the weight of whispers. One evening, days later, Sandra agreed to meet him again. They chose a small, hidden diner outside the city, far from the flashes of cameras. The place was dim, almost empty, the hum of a jukebox filling the silence between them. "You look tired," Keanu said gently as she slid into the booth. "I am," she admitted, staring at the untouched cup of coffee in front of her. "I don't know if I can do this. Every time I step outside, I feel like eyes are everywhere. Like I can't breathe without it being turned into a headline." Keanu leaned forward, his gaze steady, his voice low. "Sandra, listen to me. We don't live for them. We live for us. They can write their stories, but only we get to write the truth. And the truth is simple. I love you. You love me. That's all that matters." She bit her lip, her voice trembling. "But what if love isn't enough to survive the noise? What if I end up running again?" He reached across the table, taking her hand firmly in his. His touch was warm, grounding. "Then I'll find you every time. I'll never stop. Because you are worth every storm." Her eyes filled again, but this time not only with fear. There was something else, a spark of hope. Before she could answer, the door of the diner opened. Two strangers entered, their eyes widening at the sight of Keanu and Sandra. Whispers followed, phones lifted, and the quiet bubble of safety shattered instantly. Sandra's grip tightened on his hand, panic rising. "See? This is what I mean. We can't escape it." Keanu didn't flinch. He turned to her, his voice firm but tender. "Then we stop trying to escape. We stop hiding. If we keep running, we'll lose each other. And I won't let that happen." Her tears fell freely now, her walls cracking under the weight of his words. The strangers snapped a few photos, whispered excitedly, then left. But the damage was done. Their faces would be splashed across screens again by morning. Sandra buried her face in her hands. "Keanu, I don't know if I'm strong enough." He reached over, gently lifting her chin until her eyes met his. "Then let me be strong for both of us. Lean on me. Trust me. Together, we can face them." In that dim diner, Sandra felt the truth pressing against her fears. The choice was no longer just about leaving or staying. It was about surrendering to the one thing she had always avoided, letting herself be fully loved. And for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, the storm outside could never be louder than the quiet strength of Keanu Reeves standing by her side. The diner incident spread like wildfire. By morning, new photos of Keanu and Sandra sitting close together were everywhere. The headline screamed, "Hollywood's secret love finally exposed," while commentators debated whether it was real or just another passing rumor. Some fans celebrated, but others filled the air with doubt, harsh judgments, and endless noise. Sandra woke to dozens of calls and messages, her phone buzzing until she threw it aside. She curled on her sofa, staring at the ceiling, her heart caught between fear and desire. The storm outside was louder than ever, and all she wanted was silence. But silence now meant losing Keanu, and the thought of that hollowed her chest. Later that day, Keanu showed up at her door. He didn't knock loudly or demand entry. He simply waited, as he always did. When she opened the door, his quiet eyes met hers, steady as stone but soft with concern. "You didn't answer my calls," he said gently. "I couldn't," she admitted, her voice shaking. "Every time I try to breathe, the world steals my air." He stepped closer, his presence filling the room with calm. "Then let me breathe with you. Don't carry it alone, Sandra. I'm here." She wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall into his arms and let all the noise fade. But the fear clung stubbornly. "Keanu, what if this destroys us? What if the world breaks us apart?" His expression softened, his voice low and firm. "They can only break us if we let them. Love isn't fragile when it's real. It's strong enough to outlast the noise. She looked at him, her tears blurring her vision. And if I'm not strong enough? He reached out, cupping her face in his hands. Then I'll be strong enough for both of us. I've carried loss. I've carried silence. I've carried loneliness. But I've never had the chance to carry love like this. Don't take that away from me. Her lips trembled as his words sank deep into her soul. And in that moment, something shifted. For years, she had protected herself from pain by building walls, by running from what she wanted most. But Keanu wasn't asking her to be perfect. He wasn't asking her to fight alone. He was asking her to let him walk with her, storm or no storm. Sandra's tears fell freely, but for the first time, they weren't only from fear. She leaned into his touch, her voice breaking as she whispered, "I don't want to run anymore." Keanu's breath caught. "Then stay. Stay with me." She nodded, her hands trembling as she wrapped them around his. "I will. Not in silence, not in hiding. I will stay." The relief that swept through Keanu's chest was overwhelming. For a moment he closed his eyes, holding her as if she might disappear again. But she didn't. This time she held on just as tightly. Within weeks, the storm outside did not vanish, but it softened. The headlines continued, the photos still spread, but neither Keanu nor Sandra hid anymore. They were seen together, at a small bookstore, at a quiet cafe, even walking hand in hand through the park. Each time the cameras flashed, but their smiles stayed. Interviewers asked questions, reporters speculated, but Keanu never wavered. Whenever pressed, his answer was always simple, always the same. "She is someone I respect, someone I care for deeply. She makes my life better." Sandra, though nervous at first, began to find peace in his steadiness. Little by little, the fear that once held her captive loosened its grip. What the world saw as scandal, she began to see as freedom, the freedom to love without hiding. Months later, at a charity gala, they appeared together for the first time on a red carpet. The flashes of cameras were blinding, the noise deafening. But in the middle of it all, Keanu leaned toward her and whispered, "Just look at me, not them." She smiled, her hand slipping into his, her fears finally quiet. And as they walked forward side by side, the world roared louder than ever, but their hearts beat louder still. The decision Sandra had once thought impossible had become the simplest truth. She chose love. She chose him. And Keanu Reeves, once left speechless by her shocking decision, now stood speechless again. But this time, because she had finally chosen to stay.